I've had a blog since 2005. I'm basically the internet's grandma. Hey, I'm here with my coffee, my books, my dog is snoring in the background, and I'm happy to say I am back. Yes, that is right. The podcast Explore Your Enthusiasm is back. So today I'm going to tell you why I needed to take a 2-year hiatus from my most favorite project that I've ever done, and what to expect now that we are coming back, what you can expect if you continue to tune in. So you might be watching this on YouTube, or you might be tuning into the audio podcast feed, in which case, thank you, no matter how you're listening to it. But if you managed to stay subscribed this whole time and then get the new episode, thank you. But I wanted to let you know that you could listen either way. And so there will be links in the description wherever you're listening or watching this to how to subscribe in the other way. So if you've only ever listened to the audio podcast, well, guess what? There is a video version of me doing this podcast, talking to you face to face, and there are way more videos over on YouTube. And if you're listening on YouTube and you like an audio podcast, these episodes that are suited to be audio only will be over on the audio podcast feed. And we'll talk more about that and how often that'll come out here in a minute. As always, links to everything I mentioned, links to the other formats, including the other format actually embedded in it, is all over on the blog. So you can find a blog post for every single episode, and that's at taraswiger.com. We are actually moving sites soon, so it'll still be taraswiger.com though. So now, with the intro stuff out of the way, let's get into where I've been, how I'm coming back, and all of that. First of all, welcome back. I'm Tara Swiger. I'm a podcaster, an author, a maker, a surprise, unexpected, overnight, instant mom for they are currently all under 6 years old. And so a lot has changed since last I was here with you. Now, if you are a Patreon or you've been getting my emails, then you know some of what's been going on, because I was able to come back to my patrons and my email subscribers faster than I was able to come back to the audio podcast. In fact, I've actually been producing 2 videos a week over on YouTube ever since the beginning of this year of 2022. So there are also videos you might have missed over on YouTube if you're just an audio subscriber. And patrons have gotten a catch-up video every month where I tell them what's going on. And there were some months where it was a little crazy. They've been getting catch-up videos every month as their like bonus episode. And now that the podcast is coming back, they're going to get a bonus episode of the podcast once a month. So if you want to know more about that, you can, I'll tell you a little bit more about it at the end of this episode, but you can also go check it out at patreon.com/taraswiger. I'm sure there's a link in the description. Let's get into the big things that have changed. So the first one is that the podcast is no longer going to be lessons for your creative business. We're changing, we're switching focus, we're doing something new. It's still going to be me. We're still going to be talking about mindset and confidence and mental health and my journey into building a new business, because yes, I'm building a new business. No, it will not be anything like the old business. And I'm going to be talking about all the ways I'm following my enthusiasm and encourage you to do the same. So right now, following my enthusiasm is reading, gardening, hand sewing. It might branch into something different in the future. But like I said, over 6 years ago, it's probably 8 years ago, because the podcast was going for 6 years, over 300 episodes ago, I said that I named the podcast Explore Your Enthusiasm because I think following your enthusiasm is the absolutely best guide to creating a business that you actually like, creating a life, no matter what your job is, that you actually enjoy living in. Just doing the things that you're excited to do. So they might be completely random. They might be the most intense, small hand sewing project in the history of the world, or they might be the most boring garter stitch blankets ever. It doesn't matter. Whatever you're excited to do, if you do more of that, you will have more excitement in your life, excitement that you can then use in your job or in your parenting or just in your life. You'll have that like energy that you can keep using. So following your enthusiasm is really important. We're still going to be talking about that. And following your enthusiasm is really important so that you keep going. So when things are hard, when we have big transitions, when we face global crises, having a source of your own enthusiasm, energy, and joy is really, really vital. Now, I don't mean you close out the rest of the world and you don't pay attention to what's going on, but you can refill your well through your enthusiasm. So having that little bit of extra joy and life and energy that you tap into by following your enthusiasm, whichever way it's leading you, that's going to help you get through hard times. That's going to help us get through these big transitions. And so that's the kind of thing I want to talk about instead of talking about specifically creative business lessons like here's how to create an effective marketing plan, which by the way, I have many, many free episodes on that. Or here is how to use this tool for marketing, which I've many episodes on literally every tool except for the ones that have been created in the last 2 years, like TikTok and Reels. But I have tools on all the others or podcast episodes on all the others. Instead of talking about that, we're going to talk about the stuff that can undergird all of that. So whether you use this for your creative business, or if you don't have a creative business, maybe you, like one of my friends, are a new VA, virtual assistant, or maybe you work at your kid's school part-time, or whether you are navigating life doing something else, something you never thought you'd be doing. Maybe you're doing full-time caretaking. I want to talk about how do we handle these big transitions in our life and these big moments with grace and grace for ourselves, grace for each other, and not losing sight of who we are or what brings us joy. And I know for a lot of us in the last 2 years, caregiving has become a bigger part of our life. I mean, I don't think you all had 4 kids overnight, but a lot of you have family members and friends and spouses and children and parents who required more caregiving of you than ever. And so I think many of us are in a state of still trying to be ourselves, even while we're giving so much of ourselves to the people that we love and we care about. And part of that's a pandemic, and part of that is just maybe the age that a lot of us are. I just had my 40th birthday, so I'm right in that middle part where a lot of people in my life need a lot of caregiving. Now, that said, I want to be totally clear. I'm not transitioning into parenting, motherhood, kid-centered content at all. Because here's the thing. I spent over a decade not having children and not wanting to listen to content that was made for people with children. It was too painful. I have always promised myself that I was never going to make that shift, even though how I became a mom was really crazy and weird. And we will definitely be talking about foster care and adoption because it's something I care so much about, especially what we can learn about trauma and how we can treat each other, including our biological children. Like, we are not going to be doing parenting content. That's not what this is about. So even though I talk about that we're still trying to tap into our enthusiasm through big transitions in caregiving, it's not about being a parent. It's about living your life, even if you are completely single and live alone. One of my closest friends is single and lives by herself, and she takes more care of her mother and nieces than anybody I know. She does caregiving so much. And on top of that, she's a social worker. So this is applicable for anybody. Please know that I am sensitive to the fact that there is so much good stuff out there, but it is aimed at moms, busy moms, stressed moms. And if that's not how you identify, it can be really alienating. And so this will never be a show for busy moms. It will be a show for busy people who can feel overwhelmed and maybe lack some confidence, but want to do something creative in the world. That's what the show is for. So that's one of the big changes. So I want to let you know that, because if you're here for specific tactical business stuff, you might want to unsubscribe. Now, you might want to go back and listen to the 300 previous episodes, because I actually got an email from someone recently that said she had assigned herself going through the episodes in order, which, wow, good job, because I don't know what I sounded like 8 years ago, but she was going through the episodes in order and learning a ton and kind of doing it like a class project, like if she was in a course with me, which I think is so flattering and so cool. So go do that if you want creative business ideas, but also feel free to unsubscribe and tell your friends who don't have creative businesses that the show is now for them too. So actually that brings me to like a really great point, which is if you like the show, if you would leave a review like nowish when you're hearing this, will really help Apple know and all the podcast people know that the show is back, and it will help make sure that subscribers or people that used to be subscribed will be like told about the show. We're basically telling whatever the podcast algorithm is in the various different podcasting places, hey, this show is back. People want to hear about it. That would be super helpful in making sure that the show actually like comes back and people who want to know about it know about it. So please go leave a review. I'll actually read a review at the end of this episode that someone left that was so sweet, and it was just in the last year. So the next thing I have to tell you is that my website is changing. I've had the same website design since like around 2014, and I rewrote a lot of the pages then, but I've just been updating and editing and editing and editing. And as my life has changed and as my business has changed, I've just been editing the same pages, and I just wanted like a totally fresh start, like completely clean slate, nothing here. What would I write? The truth is I had no idea what to write. So on my new site, it's like Tara Swagger is still figuring things out. And I will be importing my old posts in there because I really love having the kind of my life archive in one place. So I think I wrote my first post about dyeing yarn back in, it would have been 2006, 2007. So those posts will still be there with all of their bad grainy pictures that I took with, get this, a camera. Not a great one either, and it had much lower resolution than my phone does now. So I sound like an old lady. Anyhow, we are moving all that over. I say we because it's not just me. It's also some people that I'm working with. So which I'll tell you more about them in an upcoming episode. So as you watch this, I might have already moved and I might not have. It depends on how it all works out. But no matter what, you can find my main site at taraswiker.com. So my new site will be there too. So go check it out and ask yourself, is this a site she's had or is this the new one? You'll be able to tell the difference if you've ever been to the site. And at the new site, you will find all of the videos that I have made in the last few months. I had not updated them to my old site, so they'll be on the new site. And then soon the whole archive will be there as well of everything I've done, all the 300 episodes and the literally thousands of blog posts and articles that I've written and pieces of writing that I've written over the years. The third thing I have to tell you is that I quit Instagram. So for at least the next year, I'm just not going to be on Instagram. I thought about quitting it for a week. I thought about quitting it for a month. I thought about just going off and being like, quit forever. We'll see when I come back. But I knew I needed to give myself a long period to make sure I don't sneak back on. So I'm staying off. I left April 1st, which I realize seems like an April Fool's joke. I left April 1st. I'm not going to go back again until April 1st of next year, if I go back at all. I'm giving myself time to think about if I even want to do it. I'm having so many ideas of things I want to do there, but I'm making myself stay off because I know that I'm not going to like detoxify my brain from the problems I was having with Instagram. Now, I was never like addicted. It was never taking over my life. In fact, I would go, especially when the kids first came, I was going weeks and weeks without even looking at it. But then when I would look at it, I would always judge myself harshly by it. So this isn't like I'm being sober by being off Instagram or I'm so good by being off Instagram. This is I need to cut some things out of my life so I can do some other things. And this is one thing I want to cut out of my life. So I will talk more about it in an upcoming episode. We will have an episode on why I quit Instagram, and I'll talk about why I quit, how I'm still going to start a business, a very visual business without Instagram. So if you want to hear all of that, make sure you've subscribed. Have I mentioned you should subscribe and tell your friends? You definitely should. So the fourth thing I want to tell you is an update on my family. So I did a video about this, and I did a very short podcast about this, but I don't think that if you've only ever subscribed on the audio podcast, you might not know what's going on. How did I go from 0 to 4 children in the course of 2 months during a global pandemic in 2020? When I stopped podcasting, my son had just been born. Judah was born in July of 2020. We were asked to adopt him about 2 weeks before he came, and he came 6 weeks early. We were asked by his birth mother to adopt him, and then he showed up. And he spent 2 weeks in the NICU because he came so early. He's perfectly healthy now, but that was kind of an intense period. He was getting big enough and strong enough to like eat on his own and then leave. And now he's healthy and he's loving, and he is definitely a toddler now. He's going to have his second birthday soon. Now, 2 months after his birth, DCS, the Department of Child Services, called and said, hey, you know those girls that you had for 6 months back in 2019? they're coming back into custody with their 5-month-old little sister. And the thing is you might remember, because I did a couple videos about that process when the girls were with us, not about their particular story. But they came with us the 2 days before my birthday in 2019. So they came on like June 1st, 2019. They were 2 and 3. Just so adorable. And we had such a fun summer together. And over the course of the next 6 months, their birth family worked the plan, and we worked together to reunify, doing increasingly long visits. And also, after we reunified, which was the week of Thanksgiving 2019, very, very hard week. Even after that, we continued to stay in their life. They came to our house and we had a toddler Christmas party. They actually stayed with us for a week while their baby sister was born in February of 2020. But then a global pandemic hit us all and situations changed, and it's extremely hard for a young family to go through COVID and all of the changes brought by COVID. And so by September, they needed to be removed from that situation. So we got that call from DCS. We had a 2-month-old at home who was actually, his adjusted age was actually only 2 weeks old. He was just 2 weeks past his due date. And we looked at each other and we're like, yeah, they're our girls. They've been our girls. They were our girls when they lived with us and we parented them full time. They were our girls when they left, and we were like kind of an aunt and uncle. They were always our family. Never since the moment I first heard about them, which was about a month before they came to us, I've been like, these are my girls. So they are. So they came with their 5-month-old baby sister, and they've been with us ever since. After about 18 months, their family and DCS decided that the best decision for everyone moving forward was for them to have permanency with us. So the adoptions are not finalized yet, but they will be soon. They might be even by the time you listen to this. I don't know. DCS is supposed to just like call me with a date. So we've done all the paperwork, and the adoptions for all 4 kids will be finalized this summer, and we will have 6 Swigers living in this house. So another thing that happened is they came in December, and we lived in a 2-bedroom and 1 office and 1 bathroom house. And Jay has been working from home because of COVID this whole time in the office. So luckily the babies were small, so they were able to sleep in the room with us. But it was really tight. So we bought our first house in June of 2021. And we moved at the end of June, and we've been here since then, so for the last year. So that was another thing that really impacted my ability to podcast, is A, moving, and B, like having the space. And although we have an office, Jay still works out of it because his office isn't open back up after COVID. So while we're talking about the kids, I want to be really extra crystal clear, and I'm going to try to be clear about this throughout us hanging out together on the podcast. Every piece of work that I do and piece of content that I create is because of childcare. I absolutely am not doing childcare at this moment that I'm recording this. Like, I could not make this without childcare. So whether it's a 2-year-old at daycare, the bigger girls at an after-school program, the bigger girls at their kindergarten and first grade classrooms, whether it's the youngest with his grandparents, I am able to do all of this because I have childcare. And I feel like there's a lot of, it's a part of the problem with Instagram. A lot of Instagram acts like, oh, we're all full-time parents. You're a parent full-time, whether you're working outside the home, inside the home, up on top of your roof. You're always a full-time parent. But a lot of influencers act like I am a full-time with my children. I am full-time hands-on caregiving at all moments and creating this amazing, beautiful content you see. And that's just not true. No one is doing that, which, I mean, you kind of know, because you would hear the baby screaming. If I was hands-on caregiving right this minute, you would hear my kids talking. They're not quiet and just perfectly quiet children. I just really want to be clear about that, and always be clear that if it weren't for childcare, and that includes, I mean, this is true of my husband as well. He's working right now because of childcare. Usually, sometimes I'm the one providing the childcare, and sometimes somebody outside the home is providing the childcare. But the only way that any human works who has children is because someone is taking care of the children. And so I just want to be really, really clear about that I, even though I have been home with the kids in one sense, that I am providing much of the hands-on childcare during the traditional work days, I also have other people who are taking care of the kids. Otherwise, I would not be creating anything on the internet. So those are the four-ish things that have changed around here. We're changing the podcast. My family changed. I'm changing the website, and I totally quit Instagram, but I'm on YouTube a lot more. So those are the things that have changed up here. And let's talk about what you can expect moving forward. So the first thing is that there are going to be 1 to 2 videos per week on YouTube. There have been ever since around February of 2022. Those videos are on mindset, gardening, mental health, reading the best books I've read on certain topics. You can go there and subscribe now. If you haven't yet, it's at youtube.com/c/TaraSwiger1. Like if you just Google Tara Swiger, you click below, you'll find it. But if you do that, you won't miss my first ever garden tour, which I'm just posting the week I'm recording this. I'm very excited. But you can also see all my creative projects that I've been working on and kind of everything. It's a fun place. It's a super fun creative outlet for me right now, is YouTube. So the second thing you can expect is there will be 1 podcast episode every 2 weeks. So it will be fortnightly, which is a word I just love saying, a fortnightly podcast. If you've been around for a while, then you know that the podcast used to come out every week. And for over 6 years, I did not miss a week. If I didn't have a new episode, we did a rebroadcast of an older episode, or I had friends step in when I very first went on parental leave. The very first time, actually, the girls came to stay with us in 2019. I never missed a week, but I don't know that I can keep up that schedule, and I'd rather be consistent at one schedule than have like too many episodes and then have to miss several weeks. So that's 1 podcast every 2 weeks. They are going to be pulled right from a talkie YouTube video. So like this that I'm doing right now is like a YouTube video, but also it will be on the audio podcast. And I already have several that I'm going to be turning into audio podcasts so that I will be sure not to miss a week. I promise if you're just an audio listener, you won't know the difference, because these podcasts have always been, for the past, ever since about episode 150 or 200 or so, these have also been YouTube videos over on YouTube. So your experience won't change much. If anything, I got a better mic, so it might even sound better. So that's 1 podcast every 2 weeks here. Subscribe, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast. You know how to subscribe to podcasts at this point. I used to have to tell people how to do it, but pretty sure you know how to do it. If you want more than 1 podcast every 2 weeks, check out the Patreon, become a patron at patreon.com/TaraSwiger. You either spend $2 or $7. You get the same amount of benefits no matter what you choose. I just want to make it more available. Some people want to support me more and they can afford to, and some people just have the $2 a month and they should still all get all the same benefits. So what you get over there is you will get a bonus audio podcast in your own private exclusive audio feed. That makes it sound really fancy. It's just that the bonus episode will be there automatically sent to your phone. We are figuring out the technology of that now. It's not hard. It requires quiet and focus, which is in short supply over here. So they'll get a bonus exclusive feed. They also get access to a Discord community, which I set up once we got to a certain number of patrons. And I'm really excited for the conversations we're going to have there and the way that's going to tie into the creative companion work I've been doing, which has been super awesome. Companion work sounds like something else, but it's like a co-working, an online co-working thing. And speaking of patrons, thank you to my current patrons. A giant thank you to my star patron, who's in star level patron, which is Carrie Bloomer. Thank you so much. You know, I love your work and I just appreciate you so much. And to my producer level patrons, JC of Band of Weirdos, Allison, Freckles and Pearls, Joe Van Every. We've been friends for so long online and I'm not sure I'm saying your last name right. The Geeks, Cece and Dammy, I love you both so much. Sarah Shira, you are amazing and all of your gnomes just blow my mind. Your gnomes make me miss Instagram. Karen LePage, you know I love you. And Rachel Heron, who is one of my most favorite new thriller writers. She's R.H. Heron, her thriller writing. So the fact that she's a patron just like is amazing. So giant shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much. If you would like to join them in the Discord community, they're all amazing, brilliant people. Please check it out and come join us. The other thing you can expect is that I send out a fortnightly email of what's bringing me joy. So this email will have in it my favorite of the videos I've made from the last 2 weeks. It will also have the new podcast episode, but it will also have whatever's bringing me joy. Like the one I sent last week has a peanut soba bowl recipe in it that I made with the kale from my own garden. I was pretty excited about that. It also has pictures in it that I'm not showing anywhere else on the internet. So like, you know, my 5-year-old eating her first radish out of the garden. Just pictures that are a little like not really, they're just like funny or silly, just things that are bringing me joy. So I also share, like, I just watched a bunch of NGOs about the productivity tool Notion and I'm in love with it. So I'm sharing those videos on that link. If I go see a movie that I like, if I read an essay that I like, way back at the beginning of 2022, I was sending a lot about like Instagram influencers and the influencer economy. I was reading a lot about that. So if that's the kind of thing, if you're just like, would like to know the things in my life that I am reading and doing and watching online, that comes in a fortnightly email, and it's just all things that make me happy. So nothing that I'm reading online that is bumming me out, which, let's be honest, is a lot of what's online. And as a reminder, if you want to find out more about anything that you hear on the podcast or see on YouTube, go over to my website, taraswiger.com. It will be in the show notes. I link up literally everything. If I talk about a book, I link it up. If I talk about a seed, I try to link it up, because there is nothing as frustrating as hearing something and being like, oh, I want to know more about that. And the person just doesn't even have show notes or doesn't have show notes that link to anything they talked about. So now that I have Jolie working with me on the podcast and videos, hopefully we will catch more things to make sure that I don't miss anything, so that you can find it again easily. And those links, if they link to Amazon or some of the seed things, some of the links are affiliate links. So if you purchase from those, I earn a very small commission. You don't pay anything extra. It's just another way for you to support me. So if you go over, I have a little Amazon storefront where I've put some of my favorite books about trauma-informed parenting, about mental health, my favorite tools in the garden. Like, if you want to check out any of those things and you purchase from any of the links you find on my website, it does support me and my family and kind of what we're doing a little bit, and it's super appreciated. So we're still working on taraswiger.com, but it will be the one-stop shop for everything, including my next business, which, yes, we didn't even talk about it, but I'm building another business. I'm so excited. Okay, I have to whisper it because I'm not quite ready to talk about it yet. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. If you have been subscribed to the podcast for the last 2 years while it just didn't even exist, I super appreciate you like clicking and listening again. You're completely making my day. I'm so happy to be back and talking to you. And if you are watching over on YouTube and you didn't know I have an audio podcast, you can go check it out in your favorite podcast app, or you can just subscribe here on YouTube and it'll keep coming at you just like this. Remember, you can get a bonus episode and a community of your fellow makers and readers and gardeners over on Discord if you join on patreon.com/taraswiger. And if you are happy the show is back, please leave me a review on iTunes. iTunes is, you can also do like a star rating on the various different things, but iTunes is kind of the best way to let all the podcast apps know that like you're listening again. So you can say whatever you want. You can just say what you enjoyed. Let me know what you most want to hear me talk about in an upcoming episode. Let me know if you have any questions about foster care, adoption, any of that. You can put any of that in a review because I read every review. For example, here is a review that was left over the last year when the podcast wasn't even coming out. So on July 15th, 2020, Eva said, valuable, not status quo insights. We're not usually taught to follow our excitement in our work and our lives, so I love that Tara focuses on enthusiasm. The conversations she's hosting about exploring more of what you truly want out from your business and using enthusiasm as your guide are so important. Thank you so much, Eva. It totally made my day. Back in February of 2020, Clarice said, awesome podcast. Tara, the host of Explore Your Enthusiasm podcast, highlights all aspects of business, entrepreneurship, and more in this can't miss podcast. The host and guest experts offer insightful advice and information that is helpful to anyone that listens. Okay, so thanks, Clarice. If you leave a review like that, I would love to shout you out on an upcoming episode. So say hi, and you might just hear your review on an upcoming episode. Thanks again so much for listening, and I hope you have a really enthusiastic day and week. I'll see you again in 2 weeks. You might be listening in any... No. Okay, so now without that... Oh, sorry, I had the mic. We'll just start over. Update on the kids in the house. Oh. I'm about to fall asleep.